Minor Mechanics.
All right, is this good to go? Okay, so we're on the final stretch. I get it, right? We just got back from Thanksgiving break, so I got to bring it, right? So my goal today is to inspire and activate more than anything. I'm sure you've heard a lot of incredible speakers over the last semester, many of which I know. It's an honor to be back here. And so let's just get started with this. So I'm going to talk about 6 traits of an entrepreneur. We just shortened it to TREP. As Stephen mentioned, we have a full-time program here in Utah, K-12, teaching kids 21st century skills, including technology and entrepreneurship, things like 3D printing, stuff they should be learning in real school. And then we also took those classes out and we launched them to the world with Tech TREP. So I love being back here, excited, and we'll just get going. So 6 traits of a TREP. So TREP is short for entrepreneur. Way easier to say and spell. So is that cool? So TREPs. All right, and let's see action. Which magic button am I pushing here?
It's supposed to be this one, but it might not.
And the clapper's not activated yet. There we go. Okay, perfect. Now forward. Yes. What are your thoughts about this stuff coming down the last couple of days? I was talking to someone from Texas. They're like 74 degrees. It was perfect. Now I come back to this. Who's stoked about the snow? All right. I like that. So I'm going to talk about one of my favorite things, which is the snow, and how you get through a Utah winter is by putting boards on your feet and skiing down a mountain. I'm going to liken that to entrepreneurship. Is that all right? Cool. So there's really two people right now that are saying, okay, I'm so pumped, or I'm like, oh, what? I don't know that I ever want to try those things. That's one of the best feelings in the entire world right there. Just snorkel, right? Who's with me? Oh, my palms are starting to sweat just thinking about it. I can't wait to get up. In fact, I got to tell you, this is really fun. I have a 7-year-old, and he was so excited the very first snowstorm when it just dusted temp in September. He comes running in our room at 6 a.m. He's like, Dad, let's go skiing. I'm like, the resorts aren't open yet. He said, well, it snowed on top of temp. Let's go. So this morning, again, 6:30 a.m., he's like, let's go. I said, you got school today, bud? So we're gonna go, but we love skiing. So I gotta just share a quick personal example. I learned how to ski from my father. My father is not a skier. He actually went up for the first time. He says it was the most horrible experience I've ever had. And he went like 100 years ago when there was like wooden skis and rocks in their boots, uphill both ways, that whole story. But he's like, I'm not ever skiing again. This is ridiculous. So he just took me up because he knew how much I liked it as a little 5-6-year-old. And we had horses, and he had a little lead line, okay, you following me, for a horse that I'm holding on to. Can you picture it? And he's pulling me up the hill, and I'm skiing down. He's pulling me up the hill, and I'm skiing down, pulling me up and skiing down. He's so awesome. He still hasn't been on this mountains, even though equipment has improved a lot. So I have my dad to thank for this, because if any of you have tried to teach someone how to ski, this is what it feels like. Do I have anyone that's tried to help someone? It's tricky, huh? Pretty crazy. So I'm one of those crazy dads that takes my kids up when they are really young. Why? Because kids are much lower to the ground when they fall. And if I need to pick them up and change direction, it's pretty easy too. So I'm one of those crazy dads, again, at about 18 months old. I'm up there with them. We're on the rope tow. Yes, you can see the circus already unfolding, right? And I just ski backwards and let him ski towards me and feel the exhilaration of, oh, this is so great. I'm like, are you done? Yeah, let's go again. And then next to me are these other dads like, come on! And the same age, I'm like, bro, it's okay. Just kind of mellow out a little bit. They've got several years ahead of them. Make it enjoyable. So anyway, I got to tell you, this is, from my perspective, entrepreneurship is the application of all learning. And here's why I say that. If you have to start a business, you need to learn and understand how to do a lot of things. Think about this in parallel with skiing. There's gear, there's a map, there's other people who know, they're familiar with the terrain. You got to make sure you got your feet, arm, hand, leg warmers, that whole program. But in entrepreneurship, you need to learn how to sell, market, know how to put together a financial forecast. Not quite the periodic table, but there is some scientific method that's involved there. So literally, when you have to start a business, you're doing everything. And so that's why this is what I define it. And literally, sometimes entrepreneurship feels like this, though. Not most of the time, a lot of the time. One more time. Whoa! I found that, and I'm like, that is perfect for entrepreneurship, because I can't tell you how many close calls I've had over the last several years. And it's teaching kids how to ski is teaching them how to be resilient and not fear failure. And when they fall down and they've got snow down their neck, to convince them we got to ski down the rest of the hill. That happens in business and life as well. So I want to share that. So this is my little buddy. So here I am, the crazy dad. He's a little dude. I'm trying to convince him to ski down this hill, and we're having a great time. Finally, we go up after a couple of years, and he says, Dad, I want to go on the lift. All right, we can go on the lift, not just a little goofy rope tow. I said, you got to learn to do two things. You have to learn to stop and turn on your own, and then we'll go. Guess what his motivation changed? He learned to stop and turn, and we were on the lift. It's kind of a cool thing. And then we start riding. He's like, Dad, I want to snowboard. I'm like, okay, you can snowboard when you can beat me down the hill skiing. So that was our little, for you snowboarders, it's all good. We're just kind of a skier family. So so I take him up there, and one morning, they do what's called early morning ski training, and I take him up. It's not even light, and it's not even right to wake up that early when it's bright and warm outside, let alone when it's like 18 degrees, and the sun doesn't come up until noon. You with me? So I drive up there, and it had just snowed the day before, like it had here, but it was over the Christmas break. And I asked one of his ski coaches, I said, hey, can I ride the lift up with him and just ski a couple of runs? Because they load the lift right behind the ski patrol and go and they get a few runs and then get on the back mountain and they close the front mountain. A little known secret. That's why ski team's pretty cool. So I load with my son. I asked him, I'm like, okay, this is great. We go up and we start cruising up the lift. And it starts snowing. And remember, it's dark, pitch black. And here I am with my son sitting on the lift together. Oh my gosh, this is crazy. We're really doing this. I don't even know if it's going to be light enough when we first start skiing down the hill. So we get off that lift. We get on the next one. We're going even higher. It's still dark. Can't see anything. It's snowing even heavier, which is really good for us powder hounds, right, who love skiing the pow-pow. And so we start going down. That's what he calls it. And so we turn and we start skiing down together. And all I can barely see him, and all I hear is this, woo, woo. We're just making turns together down this hill. So we go back down and we load the lift to come back up. Imagine this. Some of you may have experienced this. The sun is just coming up over the top of the mountains. It is spectacular. The storm is starting to break. And as I look over to the right-hand side of where we just ski down, there are our tracks, side by side down the mountain. It was an incredible experience for me because I sat there, I said, this is the reason that I paid the price, wrestling him on the rope tow and looking like a total circus for so long so we could do this. And it was one of those incredible moments. Now, at this point in time, he still hadn't beat me down the mountain. But this spring, he did. And guess what? He still wants to ski. So this changed my life. As I was thinking about it, as we were going up the lift, I thought, isn't that interesting? Everywhere we go and everything we do, we leave tracks. We leave footprints. We follow others' tracks who have inspired us. I've had the opportunity, as Dr. Little mentioned, to be in New York, in Japan, in London, in Chicago, all over to these incredible businesses all over the world. And I've seen these leaders that are extraordinary who are running and leading companies. And as I thought about the tracks and what are they doing and what are they leaving, and I broke this down, and I like to think about things really simply, so hopefully you'll always remember this when you're skiing. Again, remember, I'm going to inspire and activate you to either go skiing or to start something, all right? So I want to talk about tracks, and I'm going to break this down and just share a few stories. TRACS being the acronym for what I see is the best traits for entrepreneurs. The first one is trust. Trust, I think, is one of the least understood, but most widely accepted and embraceable traits. Think about it. When was the last time you were trusted? How did it feel? Think about a time when you weren't trusted. And how did that feel? When you're not trusted, all of a sudden you got goofy thoughts going through your head. Oh no, what's going to happen, right? But when you're trusted, the whole thing's changed. So I want to share just a quick story. Let's go. Dr. Little mentioned the dot-com, dot-bomb of the early 2000s. Yes, I'm pretty old. But take you back to late 99, early 2000. I'm at BYU. I decided to join a startup. Because if you had a .com at the end of your name, you were getting funded. So I'm like, this is going to be really cool. The internet was relatively new back then. Yes, there was still dial-up and people were shipping CDs for you to get the internet in. It really happened. I think, anyway. So back in 99, early 2000, started this little company. I'm going to share just a quick little timeline. March of 2000, we're super close to getting some funding. 45 days later, we're out of funding. Okay, now what? I think this was supposed to happen. I just closed, and a couple of other people were working with some pretty big accounts at the time. And we came in, gathered in a family room to communicate and say, hey, what are we going to do? Kind of out of money. No, so go home, figure it out. I come back the next day, and I see other people there. I'm like, I got to talk to this customer that I just barely closed. It was a pretty big deal. And I'm not going to tell him we're done. How can we tell him we're done? So I called him. I said, hey, we're going to make sure that this happens. And 4 or 5 other people started showing up the next day. We worked for free for months. Yeah, who does that? It was crazy. Well, fast forward, August 2001, we get acquired. February 2002, we break up with that acquisition, said, let's just be friends. That gave us the opportunity to hit our stride. We were growing 25% a month, month over month. We were one of the first pay-per-click search engines, not pay-per-click, but like AdWords, right, where you're paying per click. And it was pretty amazing. 25%, and we ended up being acquired by a Seattle-based company in 2003. We were the basis for their public offering in 2004. Talk about a company with 9 lives. It was incredible. And here I am, this 20-some-odd-year-old kid on a management team for a company that's just completely turned around and now sold. It was incredible. In fact, it was so amazing. I'm sitting around our final, picture this, final board meeting as a team, and our CEO was extraordinary. And I never saw him get emotional. However, I want to share just a quick experience, and I'll come back to this. I remember struggling with a challenge that I had at work. And this is the trust environment that we had at this company. I walked in, I said, hey, Paul, do you have just a minute? He said, absolutely. Put his stuff down. I said, I'm stuck. You think about walking into a CEO's office right now and just saying, hey, I don't know what I'm doing. What are they going to do? All right, we probably have the wrong guy. This guy is totally unqualified. He sits down and starts talking to me. He's like, what's going on? We walk through it. He doesn't solve my problem. I ended up solving it. But the trust that we had amongst one another was extraordinary and allowed us to build an incredible team. So yeah, we sold in March. I graduated from BYU in 2003, and we went public in 2004. A core group of us, after we worked through an earn-out, said there's a huge opportunity here in the small business marketing space to help businesses get online because, believe it or not, they were still advertising traditionally. And so we started a little company called, well, I got to back up. That final boardroom meeting. This was one thing. It was called guaranteed inclusion, where you'd be included in all search results. Kind of an interesting little story. The CEO paused after you got emotional, and he said, I want you to know, you young kids around this table, he says, this is not how it works. This isn't how it works? You kidding me? Where you run out of money, and you come back to life, and you run out of money, and then you come back to life, and all sorts of this crazy ups and downs of business? He said, no, you will spend the rest of your lives trying to recreate what we have here. Why? Because our entire leadership team was based on trust. We loved one another, and we did some pretty incredible things. So then, as Dr. Little mentioned, started a little company called orangesoda.com. So you see the last name? That was the domain, ah.ha.com. Can you imagine? Hey, this is Derek from aha.com. Hotdog.com? No, aha.com. Let me spell it for you, AH-HA. I mean, even hyphenated names today are pretty tricky. So when we started the next company, that's what people are like, where did the domain orange soda come from? So we were talking about this new business, and we said, you know what? Business partner sent an email. He's like, hey, what do you think about the domain orangesoda.com? I'm like, I love it. He's like, you serious? I said, do you know how fun that's going to be to build a brand around? Number one. Number two, do you know how fun it's going to be to outrank Fanta and Sunkist in the Google search results? So it was also pretty cool. And it was impossible to misspell. So we had a lot of fun. What we built there was, again, just like any startup, we had crazy challenges, but we had an incredible time and experience building something together. In fact, I have to tell you, I ran into some former employees. I'm like, hey, how's your new gig going? They're like, great. And I'm like, hey, how's it really going? They're like, man, we had something pretty special. Because remember what the CEO told me? You'll spend the rest of your life trying to recreate what we have here. And that's what we tried to do. This was our 6-pack of core values. This gives you a little flavor as to what the culture was. And when I talk about culture, I'm not talking about ping pong tables and free lunch delivered. Culture is what happens when crazy stuff happens. How do you treat employees? How do you treat one another? How do you navigate through the challenges of life and business? So the internet is awesome. This was one of ours. Soda is thicker than water. What does that mean? This is one of our core values, but we knew what it meant. Which means we're always honest and available for our orange soda family. The doors are wide open. We trust each other. We encourage ideas. We make it easy to communicate with decision makers. We spend our time and energy making the business better. We put the sacred cow out to pasture because we're soda people. That gives you just a little flavor for what orange soda was like. Be the expert. Remember the ping pong, refreshing service. We had an incredible experience. I'll never forget when one of our clients, we went through an RFP process, a request for proposal, from one of the Fortune 50 company. And there was a number of us. And I said, I don't know how likely we are to get this deal, but we're going to get everything we got. We got the deal. For our quarterly business reviews, we'd always go to New York to their offices right in the financial district. And they said, we want to come out to Utah. We hear Utah's a pretty cool place. We want to come check out what's going on there. Your people are so happy, so engaged, everything. We want to come and see what's going on. They flew out. We had a 3-day quarterly business review. We took them all over, Park Cities, Salt Lake, Sundance, and had amazing 3 days of meetings. At the end of 3 days, the main executive that came out sponsoring this whole trip, we were walking out of the parking lot, exchanging pleasantries, and he said, how have you done this? And I said, how have we done what? He said, I've been in a number of companies. I've never seen a culture that functions like this. How have you done it? And I said, we trust our people. That's the power of trust. So again, back to my awesome dad, he taught me a super valuable lesson. He said, with trust, it takes a lifetime to build, but it can also be lost in a day. So it's something that constantly you have to iterate and build. The next one is responsibility of that track. So T, trust, R, responsibility. Let me tell you, so we have a tech and entrepreneurship program here in the state of Utah, servicing almost 3,000 kids. Olivia is one of our kids, one of our students. She's extraordinary. She lives in rural Utah. We walk them through an entrepreneurship process where they can do it online. And she said, well, I live on a farm. What are you passionate about? What do you enjoy doing? What kind of market conditions exist where you are? I don't know. There's not very many businesses around. But I really like my dogs. Wait a second. Our family's allergic to dogs. Okay, think there's a market opportunity here? She started breeding and selling hypoallergenic dogs, or dogs that don't shed. Burn doodles, golden doodles, any kind of doodle. And she's 15 years old. She just sent Matt, my business partner, and I a letter and said, thank you for giving me wings. She said in her letter, she says, I've made more in 6 months than my parents made in an entire year. She's 15. She has taken responsibility for herself to say, you know what, I'm going to go make it happen. I'm going to go make a difference. Why can't we? We're here to create and to build and to grow. And that's why I love entrepreneurship. Olivia is a great example. She put her education and passion together to create an extraordinary business now. Remember I talked about, skiing early on? A lot of people, you go into a classroom. I didn't take my son into a classroom. My dad didn't take me into a classroom to learn how to ski. I learned by doing. And you learn some powerful lessons when you're up there on the slopes and you're hoping like everything that you're going to be able to make it back down to the bottom, right? That's what it's like starting a business. But Olivia was extraordinary. She's on track. She just told us to make $80,000 this year as a 15-year-old. Living on a farm. Extraordinary story. Here's another one of my favorite business mentors, David Nealman. Anyone know him? He just happened to invent one of the first online ticketing systems. Morris Murdoch Air, maybe some of you have heard of JetBlue. Founder of JetBlue. One of my favorite stories of incredible customer experience is from David Nealman. And it was the reason that they moved him out of the company. And you know what he did? Left JetBlue. And if you've ever flown JetBlue, it's a totally different experience, right? Talk about a commoditized industry. And how do you make it different? Well, you have an incredibly responsible CEO. He's now in Brazil and started Azul Airlines. And they're crushing it. David, his daughter actually worked at Orange Soda, and he, on a ski vacation, came and spoke to our team. It was awesome. And these are a couple of things that I remember. He says, create a business that people adore. You know what he does when he boards his plane? They don't have a first class on JetBlue. He'll get on the plane and think about most or typical CEOs that just sit down and say, I got a lot of work to do. He puts on an apron and serves the customers and asks how they're doing. That's an incredible demonstration of what it's like to be responsible. I love David Nealman. All right, accountability. When we talk about accountability and metrics and systems, I know right when you walk in, you can find out if there's a good accountability system because trust is high when you have good accountability systems. When trust is low, accountability is a little bit squishy. So I want to tell you about an accountability experience that I had where I was on the spot. Any of you seen TLC? Maybe the show Say Yes to the Dress? A lot of the girls are nodding their heads. The guys are like, what? That's how I was. We had a big partner back in New York. I was eating lunch with the executive team. We had two of our sales guys that were out on a sales call. They said, hey, we're going to meet with Kleinfeld Bridal. I'm like, awesome, good luck. I'm going to go have lunch with the executives. I said, can't wait to hear how this goes. Keep me posted when you get back. Mid-lunch, I get a call. They're like, Derek, we just found out the two owners from Kleinfeld are going to be here. Can you join us? Depends on where you are. I found out that we were just eating, well, it's the long blocks. It's the east to west blocks in New York, if you've been there. They said, we're just a couple blocks away. So I grab my stuff and start heading over there as fast as I can. Walking in, you walk into Kleinfeld, and there's all this videotaping stuff. Hey, you might be on camera, but we're not going to pay you anything for it. I'm like, okay, that's cool. I don't need to worry about that. And so I'm like, where's the meeting? We go downstairs, and here in this room, we're talking about how we can partner and help them with their online marketing. And Josh, who's on the far right, lived in New York. We had a white label relationship with this partner, which means we did all the fulfillment behind the scenes. They got all the credit. So they asked us, they said, Josh, we know you're here, so where are your two team members from? Now is the moment of truth. I looked over at Jake. He looked back at me. I looked back over at Jake. I looked at Josh. I looked at them. I said, we're from Utah. Utah? Can you imagine now? You're from Utah? And you can only imagine some of the things that came. We kept going into our presentation. This one guy just sat there still looking at us like, Utah? Yeah, we're from Utah. He's like, I love Utah. Woo! I was so relieved because you can only imagine the stories that come with Utah, right? Although we're on the map. It's fantastic. So we have a great conversation with them. Still, he's nodding his head saying, Utah. I can't believe you guys flew all the way out here from Utah to come and meet with us. Do you know how much that means? I was so pumped. He said, I've got something for you at the end. I remember walking in. They have a whole bunch of T-shirts all over that say all this cool stuff. I'm like, oh, my wife's going to be so excited. I'll get her a T-shirt. And I was here, and I've never watched the show, but that's cool. And so we wrap up the meetings. They're like, come downstairs. So we go down to the men's section of the office. And a tailor, and they call them tiny tailors, right, comes running out and starts measuring us. Me and Josh and Jake. I'm like, what? I don't know you need to get measured for a t-shirt. I'm just a large. So I'm like, okay, this is pretty cool. I have no idea what's happening. He's like, thank you for coming out here, and we appreciate it. We look forward to working with you. We're giving you all suits. These weren't just regular suits. They're Hugo Boss suits. This is not something you find at Mr. Mac, right? I'm like, this is pretty awesome. So this is what I learned from Say Yes to the Dress. This guy actually right here, you can ask your parents. Trapper John from MASH, the old sitcom MASH. He's incredible. One of the most successful entrepreneurs of all time and most successful movie and actors. He is awesome. This is what I learned from that day. And sometime you may not know, you may get a suit out of being honest. So always be honest. It pays. So this is us right here, walking out of Kleinfeld. And it was so funny. They're like, how long are you going to be in New York? I said, we're leaving actually tonight. And he said, well, we can tailor everything. We'll send it to you. I said, no, we can take it. They're like, no, do you have tailors that can really do this and do it right? I'm like, yeah, well, I'll find someone. Found someone. It's been great. So that was my incredible about being honest. The next one, communication. Many of you have probably seen Gary Vee, and this is why I put the expletives there. I really like Gary because in terms of communication, there are a few people who do it better in social media channels than Gary does. Let me just share a really quick story. I was at an Inc. 500 event and had the opportunity to meet Gary. He had just finished his book called The Thank You Economy, and this is what is so cool about the Thank You Economy. He had a customer place a huge order from him. Through social media, he looked up who that customer was and found out that he was a hockey fan. Found out what team was his favorite, sent him a jersey. Said, hey, thanks so much for your order. We sure appreciate it. And you guys heard that story? Sent him a jersey. You know what he did? If you're ever going to order from anybody, this is where you go. And Gary is an incredible, incredible communicator. The way that he communicates, the way he adds value, the way he provides. And the way that now, more than ever, if you want to differentiate as a business, if you're starting one, the real key is to delight your customers because very few people do it. Think about this really quick. Think about the drive-through menu. When you pull around, you pull around the corner and there's your picture of what you're supposed to get. What do you actually receive when you get it? Not the same. But figuring out how to delight is the key differentiator in business that I see. Also, Gary Vee hustles more than anybody that I've ever seen. Kindness. I want to share a quick story, an example of a very kind driver that I met. Now, kindness is not to be misinterpreted with weakness, because some of the most amazing people that I've ever met are stern, but they're also very kind and incredible people. I want to tell you about an experience we had. So, Corey, she drives a rental car shuttle bus. Most of you have the opportunity to be on a rental car shuttle bus. I haven't really heard any of them say anything. And in fact, when they do say something, the microphone system's so bad you don't even know what they're talking about. I was like, what? Okay, I don't know what that means, but I'm just going to stay on there until I go to my little rental car place. So we get on with Corey. We've just flown to Hawaii, and we've got our little teeny dude with us, and my wife is expecting. So you can imagine what it probably looks like because you've seen those families at Disneyland with their 17-passenger stroller, right? The car seat, the diaper bag, the bags, the swim gear, everything. And we show up to the curb, and it was also a very late-night flight. My wife and I are just standing there on the curb like this. And here this rental car van pulls up. And I get it that we're in Hawaii, and people are naturally just amazing in Hawaii. But this lady, Corey, jumps off. And she says, welcome to Hawaii. And she, before I could even look, she had all of our stuff loaded in the rental car truck going back to where where we need to go pick up our rental car. We get on, a couple of other people join us, and we're sitting there just so relieved that we didn't have to pick up the car seat again. And she says, welcome to Hawaii and aloha. Most people, aloha, we've been flying all day long and we're kind of tired, and aloha. She's like, that's not going to work. She said, I said aloha. Aloha. That's pretty cool. I always want to do that. Especially helps when it's snowing outside too, right? Makes you feel good. So finally we all said aloha. She said, welcome to Hawaii. I am going to be your tour guide for the next minute and 35 seconds. So pay attention, because when you return your car, you're going to come back the exact same way that we're driving in right now. Thank you so much for renting from Alamo, and have a wonderful stay in Hawaii, and mahalo. And then we get off, and I just said, I have the opportunity to speak about customer experience a lot. And I said, Corey, thank you so much. And I gave her a little tip. She helped us off with everything. And I said, you're incredible. Do you mind if I take a quick picture? Because I don't have most shuttle bus drivers that are as extraordinary as you. And she gave me the hang loose, and I took a picture. She was awesome. Fast forward, so that was 2014. Fast forward to spring of this year, and we're going back to Hawaii, flying into the same airport, and I asked my business partner, I said, hey, who did you happen to book the car through? And he said, I don't know, I'll pull out the papers. So I then retell the story. I said, let me tell you about the experience that I had when I was in Hawaii this last time. It was incredible. Corey, one of the best drivers I've ever seen. Here's what she did. She jumped out, totally helped us. One of the kindest people I've ever experienced. And so he pulls it out. He says, oh, we're renting from Alamo. I said, how cool would it be if Corey's picking us up? Guess who I saw? She opens the door, she goes, welcome to Hawaii and aloha. I'm like, Corey, what's up? She's like, should I know you? I'm like, I've only talked about you for like years since I was back here, and you're just so awesome. And so I'm like, thank you. And I told her the story, and then at the very end, after she dropped us off, I said, Corey, I said, thanks so much for making this such an incredible experience. And she said, as she gets on, we're driving back. I forgot this one point. As we're driving back, she says, welcome to Hawaii and aloha. Everyone had to repeat aloha. And then she said, we just want a special welcome to all of you who are traveling to Hawaii, and especially our ohana, my ohana. Oh, what? I was like, oh, my family. She's so awesome. So anyway, when you're going to rent a car in Hawaii, no, I'm just kidding. But again, you guys, she drives a shuttle bus. Everyone has the opportunity to be kind, no matter what and no matter where. So I want to talk about an extraordinary example around service. Everyone talks about customer experience and customer service and how great it can be. But very few people actually execute on it, right? And isn't it interesting, as human beings, we love to talk about great experiences, or we love to talk about really poor experiences. And there are so many companies right now focused on good customer experience. But I don't like filling out and writing and calling numbers on receipts, right? It's real-time interaction. How many have been to Chick-fil-A recently? What do you say when you say thank you? Oh, interesting. And do they say that anywhere else? No, because it's part of training. And it's part of an incredible customer experience. I had the opportunity to go to Japan. Anyone been to Japan? Show of hands. A couple of us. Highly recommend it. It's incredible. I'm so grateful, though, that I went with someone who can speak the language. We were invited by Google to come over to one of their partner retreats in Tokyo. And here I want to tell you just a quick story about Japan. And no, the only thing I know is konnichiwa. And that's still all I know. Arigato. Arigato. All right. So we load the plane. We fly from here to Detroit. And I have my amazing Kleinfeld bridal suit that I'm taking with me to go to Japan, because that's how they meet. They dress like this. And they're very formal. I like this suit a lot, right? So as I walk in, I'm sitting back in the very back of the plane. And I said, do you mind if I put my coat here in first class? Yes, what seat are you sitting in? I don't know, like 302 in the back. They're like, yeah, no problem. So they ended up hanging my coat up in the first class, and we fly all night, land in Japan Sunday morning. So tired. Get off the plane, catch the tram back to downtown where we are. The sun's just starting to come up. and it's a beautiful Sunday morning. I find that we're only like 3 blocks away from the temple in Tokyo, and so we found an English-speaking ward that just happened to start at 1 o'clock. It was fantastic. We went to sleep. Right as I walked in, before I went to sleep, I set down my bags, and all of a sudden I realized, I left my coat on the plane. Oh, this isn't just an everyday coat, right? This is my special coat from New York. So I get on the phone immediately, and I call, and I'm connected with someone in Salt Lake. And I said, please tell me that plane is still sitting on the tarmac here in Japan. No, it's actually en route back to LA. Oh, all right. Well, I guess I'll have to just do without my coat for this trip. So we go to church. Awesome. Come back, and there is a message for me in my hotel room. And I call down to the front desk. They're like, oh, call so-and-so down at the airport. So I called down to the airport like, Mr. Miner, we have your coat. I'm like, yes, this is fantastic. What are the odds, first of all? And so I said, all right. So I'm like, I'll come down there. Like, no, Mr. Miner, we can bring your coat to you. What? No, we're going to be doing a run later this afternoon. We're so happy to come and bring your coat. I said, no, my meetings start really early, and I'll just come and get it if that's okay. Yes, sir, absolutely. Here's what we'd like you to do. Come to the information desk, and we will meet you right there. The information desk will know who you are when you come. This is at an international airport. So I hit the SOS button. How are we going to get down there? That was actually one of the phones. Pretty amazing. So we end up going down there. As I walk in to the information desk, these 2 workers exchange dialogue, and then here comes this amazing man with my suit, wrapped in plastic, and says, here you go, Mr. Miner. And I pull out some money to give him a tip. And he says, no. He says, I'm just doing my job. Thank you so much for flying Delta. What? What just happened? This is incredible. That was my experience in Japan. Now, serving, that's why I say arigato. Just doing my job, thanks for flying, and here's someone who's always happy to help. I've never forgotten that experience. And that's just the culture, and that's how they are in Japan. So that's why I can't wait to come back to Japan. So I wanted to share just really quickly, as you think about your life and what you're going to do and what business you may be starting or you're working on right now or you want to do, what is the legacy that you're going to leave? What are your tracks going to look like as you're loading the ski lift? For some of you who don't ski, I hope you will load the ski lift sometime and see the tracks coming down. What do yours look like? What kind of an impact will you make in the life of someone else? And what will be your legacy as you think about these people? Trust. How are you going to convey and express trust? And how can you be trusted? And how can you be trustworthy? And how can you extend that trust to others? Think about this really quick. Within our current society, what are some of the artifacts that we see that it's relatively low trust? Airport security lines, obviously. There's also little signs in front of most houses now because we've done such a good job here in Utah County selling security systems, right? And what do we do before we close? We turn off the lights and we deadbolt everything up. Extending trust and being trustworthy is critical. Responsibility, remember, like Olivia, the opportunity to say, I'm going to go and create and build something amazing and learn those skills and learn the ability to go and actually create. And now, in her letter also, she told us, she said, I'm working on other investments as a 15-year-old. She's awesome. Accountability, think about that. Always be honest, and you never know when you may get a suit. Communication, communicate. Stay in touch. There's so many platforms and so many ways to find out and communicate with one another, especially when things are tough. Kindness, think Aloha. Think Corey, the shuttle bus driver, who I can't wait to see again someday. And then finally, smile, you're in Japan. That's tracks. These are the traits of the most successful companies and entrepreneurs that I've been around. They have all of these and possess them and share them and teach and train others. So this is what I'd finally say. Go and do. Nephi best coined that phrase, and I like what Seth says, go make something happen. You learn by doing. You don't learn how to ski in a classroom. You learn principles, you learn maps, you learn training, you learn equipment, you learn all those things around the strategy of skiing, but the actual execution you have to do. Start something now. Start something today. Go make it happen. So I'd say rather than just go make it happen, you saw my Back to the Future reference earlier, I say run for it, Marty. Go make it happen. You're so blessed. We have so much living in such an incredible place, studying an incredible university. Go make it happen. This is how you can get a hold of me. Thanks so much for your time. You guys have been awesome.